And a woman-led organization launches Remember Her campaign for those who lost their lives through gender-based violence. But first up, the news with Onele Nzinzi and our sports headlines with Msibudi Makura.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Wow, thank you, Lulu, and greetings to our listeners. Tunisian President Kais Saied has summoned the EU ambassador to protest what he called a diplomatic breach after the EU official met the head of a powerful union this week. This comes amid rising tension with the country's largest civil society group. The incident marks the latest sign of friction between Tunisia's leadership and the international partners over the country's handling of civil society or opposition groups. EU Ambassador Giuseppe Peroni met the UGTT leader Noureddin Taboubi on Monday, praising the union's Nobel Peace Prize winning role in 2015 and stressing continued cooperation with Tunisia's civil society. Amnesty International has said the crackdown on rights groups has reached critical levels with arbitrary arrests, detentions, asset freezes, banking restrictions and suspensions targeting 14 NGOs. Attempted murder accused and alleged criminal cartel kingpin Vusimuzi Ket Matlala has started to testify before the South African Parliament's ad hoc committee. He's testifying from the Khosi Mampuru Correctional Facility in Pretoria, where he is incarcerated. Yesterday, his lawyers attempted to get a postponement and was unsuccessful. They argued, amongst other things, that Matlala's incarceration had negatively affected his mental health. Evidence leader advocate Norman Arnser first asked Matlala to verify his details.
Once again, good morning. How are you doing?
I'm well and myself.
Okay. Thank you to you and your legal team for your cooperation under trying circumstances. So we really thank you for that. You are currently detained here at CMAX, isn't it?
Of course.
As an awaiting trial inmate, prisoner.
Yes.
And you've been charged with attempted murder of your former girlfriend.
Yeah, that's correct.
You have applied for bail, that was refused, and is that bail application still on appeal currently?
No.
Civil society groups in South Africa have launched a court application to force authorities to stop what they call xenophobic vigilantes from blocking access to healthcare facilities in the Gauteng province. The groups include Doctors Without Borders and the Treat Action Campaign. They say patients are being turned away from the facilities due to their nationality or a lack of identity documents. The groups have also accused the state of failing to uphold the Constitution and to protect people's rights to health care. Claire Waterhouse is with Doctors Without Borders.
Well, at this stage, it is simply a lot of inaction. And what we've seen is that there's several of us who have brought this court case, and we've been working on this issue for a while. We've been asking the authorities to take action to make sure that our clinics are safe for anyone who needs to access them. And unfortunately, we've not seen action, which has forced us to take this action now to the High Court. What we are asking is mainly to ensure that physical access to our clinics across Gauteng, but across the country as well, is unhindered.
The families of Papiri village say security forces have failed to protect their children at the school in northern Nigeria, where more than 300 pupils were kidnapped by gunmen last week. They say they had long called for security forces to come to the area, but to no avail. Instead, the village had arranged for volunteer men to guard their premises. But when dozens of gunmen on motorbikes stormed the school on Friday morning, the unarmed guards knew they stood no chance and fled. The attack on the Catholic school has laid bare President Bola Tinubu's faltering security efforts, which have been under heightened scrutiny since U.S. President Donald Trump threatened military action over the treatment of Christians. Lastly, Taiwan President Lai Ching-te has warned that China is stepping up its military preparation to take the island by force. He says Taiwan will introduce a $40 billion supplementary defense budget and underscore its determination to protect itself. China has also warned it will crush any foreign attempts to interfere over Taiwan, saying it has the ability to defend its territorial integrity. The BBC's Stephen McDonnell.
Basically, he said that China has been speeding up its military preparations to take Taiwan by force. He said that Beijing is continuing to increase its military drills and so-called grey zone harassment around Taiwan. There are even reports of such drills going on today. He said that for Taiwan, the most threatening scenario isn't actually war, but giving up. And he said that in his words, compromise to this aggression from the mainland would not lead to peace, but would actually lead to war.
Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Tsinzi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
And coming up in your sports news this hour, India suffer the heaviest defeat as South Africa complete a series clean sweep, while Ronaldo cleared to play opening matches at next year's FIFA World Cup. I'll tell you more on these and other stories at 12:30.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
It is 12:07 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa on DSTV's audio bouquet channel 802, OpenView channel 628, and on www.channelafrica.co.za, as well as on the SABC Plus app, available on the Apple and Google Play stores. Join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1. On Facebook at Channel Africa, you can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763. That's 406-9126, hashtag Africa Update, and let us know which country you're in. And if you have any stories that you'd like us to highlight or to focus on, send us an email. It is newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or give us a call on +2711 714 4459.
Tune in and turn up the volume. This is Channel Africa.
Well, today on hashtag Africa Update, a South African woman-led organization has launched the Remember Her campaign to honor women and children who lost their lives through gender-based violence as part of the global 16 days of activism against gender-based violence and femicide. Now, our question to you today is, what are you doing to raise awareness for gender-based violence and femicide? Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763. That's 406-9126, hashtag Africa Update, and let us know which country you're in.
Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update. Only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
It is 12:09 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Now, today, what is unfolding in the country, the ad hoc committee, the Parliament ad hoc committee investigating allegations of criminal infiltration, corruption, and political interference in the justice system, is hearing from a witness at the Kosi Mampuru Correctional Facility in Pretoria. And the witness is a businessman, Vusmuzi Kat Matlala, who's testifying. Let's take a listen to what he has to say.
And then that's when the police refused. And then I think I ended up sending him a letter that if you don't let me occupy the hospital, then I will take legal action.
Well, that's why I asked. Are you in a legal dispute?
No, there's no legal dispute.
So has it been resolved? Or are you still not in occupation of the hospital?
Yes.
What's yes?
I'm not even now occupying the hospital.
So So why would you have wanted to lease the hospital in the first place? For what purpose?
Where the hospital is, it's inside the training college of SAPS. So I just learned that the students who are training inside there by the college, sometimes they get injuries, or even when they're sick or whatever, they have to go to the nearest hospital, which is outside the premises of SAPS. So I wanted to use that hospital as an opportunity for them to render the services for them.
So you still haven't been able to give effect to what you wanted to do and why you leased the hospital?
Yes.
And that was Vusmuzi Kat Matlala there responding to the senior counsel who is representing South Africa's ad hoc committee in these investigations of alleged criminal infiltration, corruption and political interference in the justice system. And joining us now in that story, Kat Matlala is testifying before the ad hoc committee, and for more on his appearance, we are joined on the line by South African Prisoners Organisation for Human Rights President and prison rights activist Golden Miles Budu. Golden, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Now, as the South African Prisoners Organisation for Human Rights and with the work that you do on prison conditions, can you comment on the validity of Matlala's claims about the state of the Kgosi Mampuru prison and whether these conditions might impact his ability to testify effectively?
Well, look, he is kept at CMEX. We call it in Afrikaans the last Stasi. It's an ultra maximum institution. There's only 2 of them in the country, and there is none of such institutions I know on the continent. But that is what happens when you are locked up in maximum solitary confinement, and you take exercise all by yourself. You take a shower by yourself. You are hand shackled, ankle shackled. It is not a place anybody wants to be, regardless of what crime you have committed. And of course, it will have that psychological, physical, and mental effect on any human being, regardless of who you are, where you come from, and how well informed and balanced you are. It will have that effect, of course.
These are the same conditions, just going back to another case, the Thabo Bester case. These are the same conditions he was complaining about.
Yes, of course. Yes, there will always be complaints from people who are particularly locked up in solitary confinement, let alone the one that we're talking about. But if you are there as a human being and you know that you've done something wrong, even if you haven't done something wrong, you must just remain focused, because if you do not focus, you will end up suffering from a blackout, nervous breakdown, and you might become suicidal.
Now, what measures do you think should be taken to ensure that prisoners like Matlala receive adequate medical and psychological care while in custody, especially when they are required to participate in high-profile investigations? Or is this part of, sort of a strategy or an investigative team strategy to ensure that he reaches breaking point where he'll then tell the truth?
Well, look, I'm not confident that he will get the kind of psychological, mental treatment, medical treatment from where he is. It doesn't happen. Ask me, I'll tell you a long, drawn-out story. But he has got deep pockets, isn't it? Can't he apply that he get examined by his own psychologist, criminologist, sociologist, and so on, so that he mustn't lose his mind? Unfortunately, unfortunately, those who don't have those deep pockets will have then to learn as time goes on and adapt and come to terms.
And just considering the high stakes nature of testifying against powerful police figures, what psychological and logistical safeguards should Parliament implement to ensure that Matlala's safety post testimony, and do you believe current prison protocols are equipped to mitigate such risks? You mentioned earlier that he is basically in isolation.
Well, it should not be for Matlala, the shortcut. It should be for all those who are ending up in CMEX. I mean, this is not solitary confinement. It is CMEX ultra solitary confinement. You know, we must not create a situation that he might be better than anyone else that is there. All of them must get that kind of treatment who are in particularly situations of this nature, you know. And as I earlier said, he has got the advantage. If he wants to remain focused and he's not strong enough, he's not man enough to use his monies to appoint some consultants and psychologists and doctors to make sure that he doesn't lose it whilst he is at that trial. Because when you are taken to CMEX, you have to spend 18 months there, and after 18 months, they will decide whether they will remove you or not. And if they think that you are not fit enough to go to the communal section, they will keep you there for another 18 months.
And how might Matlala's decision to testify now affect other prisoners or impact on other prisoners who might want to speak out about corruption? Will it encourage them to come forward or make them more cautious about speaking out?
Well, that's a very intelligent, informative, and educative question, because that is the reason why we as an organization has written to the president to say, look, can't you, President, squeeze in prison conditions, accommodation, brutality, the dehumanization and degradation of people who are not only in CMEX isolation cells, but are also in prison, you know, a separate commission of inquiry, or let the terms of reference be changed or tampered with to bring on the spotlight and the public the conditions and treatment of prisoners in its totality, sentenced or not sentenced prisoners. And we hope the president will buy into our request to have a similar commission of inquiry into the conditions I've just mentioned, because our prisons, let me be quite frank with you, are not the prisons we know. They are hellholes, because it's brutality that is meted out against black on black prisoners and correctional officers. We used to in the past, and we used to take that knock because we understand. It's historical, it's discrimination, it is oppression. But the oppression now, post-1994, is even worse than previously, because it's another black officer tramped, that brutalized, and that even kill another the black offender. That is how serious the issue is. We need a commission of inquiry to that effect.
Well, Golden Miles Budu, thank you for joining us. We'll leave it there for today. That's South African Prisoners Organisation for Human Rights President and prison rights activist Golden Miles Budu joining us on the line.
Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update. Only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
It is 19 after 12 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1. On Facebook at Channel Africa, you can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 as 406 9126 #Africa Updates, and let us know which country you're in. And if you have any stories that you'd like us to highlight or to focus on, send us an email. It is newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or give us a call on +2711 714 4459.
Balisa and Benjamin fuel your day with fresh African perspective on Channel Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
Parlez-vous couramment le français? Êtes-vous passionné par la radio? Et êtes-vous qualifié pour travailler en Afrique du Sud? Envoyez-nous votre CV et vos 3 minutes démo en MP3 à @channelafrica.co.za pour avoir une chance de rejoindre la famille Channel Africa. Si vous n'avez pas de réponse après 14 jours, cela signifie que vous n'avez pas été retenu. Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Dr. Charles Nyokonje, a founder and executive director of Peace Builders Without Borders, says Russia's offer to support Nigeria's efforts against terrorism should be viewed with caution and strategic realism. Our mass abductions for ransom, especially in northern Nigeria, have become distressingly routine, with armed groups targeting schools, villages and highways. Our human rights groups have said the frequency of these attacks reflects deep failures in protection, accountability and justice. Tutongobeni filed this report.
Nigeria has been experiencing persistent violence from armed groups, including Boko Haram, operated since 2002 from Borno State and remains active despite major losses inflicted by the Nigerian military in 2015. Renewed attacks on schools have prompted authorities to close educational institutions in several states, while President Bola Tinubu cancelled a planned trip to South Africa for the G20 summit earlier this month due to rising security concerns. Dr. Charles Nyokonje, founder and executive director of Peace Builders Without Borders, says the failure to deal with these mass attacks is not simply due to capacity, but due to a gap in intelligence and a synergy between federal forces.
Nigeria's security challenge today is not simply about capacity. It's about fragmentation, overstretch, and crisis coordination. The current wave of attacks which we are seeing, whether from the bandits in the northwest, insurgents in the northeast, or communal militias in the middle belt, exposes a security architecture that is reactive rather than preventive. And the system remains heavily militarized, but under-intelligence-led, with weak early warning mechanisms and poor synergy between federal forces, state authorities, and local communities. Compounding this is a chronic underinvestment in human security, meaning poverty, unemployment, land disputes, and climate stress continue to fuel violence. So, what we are seeing is not merely a failure of force, but a failure of integrated security governance.
Nyokonje says a variety of issues, including the political crisis, tribalism, the porous borders, and the arms proliferation in the Sahel, is central to these attacks.
At the heart of Nigeria's insecurity is a convergence of structural and political crises. This includes the contestation over land and resources, weakened state presence in rural areas, elite manipulation of ethnic and religious identities, and a collapse of trust between communities and the state. We also cannot ignore the regional dimension. Porous borders, arms proliferation from the Sahel, and the spillover of instability from Mali and Niger are feeding a complex hybrid conflict system. In essence, the violence is both a symptom and a consequence of governance failure, where citizens increasingly seek protection from non-state actors because the state is either absent or perceived as predatory.
On Russia extending its hand to assist Nigeria with these attacks, he says the offer should be viewed with caution and strategic realism, and says a Nigerian-led solution is the answer to this crisis.
Interestingly, Russia's offer should be viewed with caution and strategic realism. External military assistance can offer short-term tactical relief, but it does not resolve the root causes of insecurity. We have seen in other African contexts that security partnerships with Russia, especially through private military contractors, often prioritize regime security over human security and can entrench authoritarian tendencies. Nigeria does not therefore need primarily any new foreign allies. It needs systemic security reform, investment in intelligence systems, professionalization of the police, community security integration, and above all, the political will to address the socio-economic drivers of violence. So, while Russia may appear as an alternative partner, it is not a silver bullet. The solution must remain fundamentally Nigerian-led and citizen-centered. So if I were to conclude, I would say, ultimately Nigeria's stability will not be restored through imported solutions, but through rebuilding the social contract between the state and its people.
2.5 years into Tinubu's term, rating agencies have praised his economic reforms, but almost daily attacks remain broadly unchecked despite his pledge to recruit more soldiers and police officers. For Channel Africa News, I am Tutongo Bene in Johannesburg.
Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update. Only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
It is 26 after 12 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. And more than 300 supporters and officials from Uganda's main opposition party have been detained since election campaigning began last month. Now, this is according to the National Unity Platform. Security forces reportedly used tear gas, water cannons and pepper spray at rallies in the capital, Kampala. Our pop star turned politician Bobby Wine, whose real name is Robert Kyagulanyi, is challenging 81-year-old President Yoweri Museveni for the second time after coming second in the last election in 2021. For more on this, our correspondent in Uganda, Mike Arareng, joins us on the line. Mike, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
A very good afternoon to you, Lulu.
Now, what's the latest regarding the arrest?
Well, it is true. The leadership of the National Unity Party has confirmed up to 300 of its supporters have been detained by the police since presidential campaign trail began last month. Chaotic scenes have been observed in all places where the leader of the opposition party has been visiting. Most of the supporters were arrested in Mbarara town and Kiruhura district, the home of the incumbent President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. The supporters were arrested by security personnel, some for unknown reason, but others after clashing with security personnel. In Kiruhura district, thousands of youth who are backing President Museveni attacked the National Unity Platform supporters with sticks and machetes, and most of the supporters were injured. On Monday, thousands of supporters of National Unity Party were arrested in Kawempe, a suburb of Kampala, when the leader of the National Unity Party, Robert Kyagulanyi, popularly known as Bobby Wine, was addressing a huge gathering. Police
now,
say
Mike,
the supporters
what are Ugandans saying about the upcoming elections?
Well, it is chaotic as I speak to you right now. And as I speak to you right now, the leader of the opposition, Robert Kyagulanyi, is currently on his way to Buikwe, that is my home district, where he's going to address a huge gathering. Since last night, there was a lot of vibe in Buikwe town, but thousands and thousands of police have been deployed. But the problem and the question is, these supporters who have been arrested, so far they have not been charged, but they have been detained in various police stations, and it appears they'll be released maybe after the general election that will be on 15th of January 2026.
Now, just looking at the fact that we have run out of time, but what impact will this have on the elections and the voting of the people of Uganda? Because now the vote is literally in their hands.
Well, most Ugandans are saying that they are not actually going to participate in the voter exercise, but it is actually assumed already that the incumbent, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, is going to win with a slight victory. But at the same time, Robert Chagulanyi is emerging to be one of the best candidates, because actually he is really challenging President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni.
Well, Mike, we'll leave it there for today. Thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Thank you too.
That's our correspondent in Uganda, Mike Arareng, joining us on the line. Our news headlines up next with Onelin Sinzi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. More than 300 supporters and officials from Uganda's main opposition party have been detained since election campaigning began last month. This is according to the National Unity Platform, South Africa's ad hoc committee investigating allegations of criminal infiltration, corruption and political interference in the justice system is hearing from witnesses at the Kgosimampuru Correctional Facility in Pretoria. Today, murderer-accused businessman Vusimuzi Ketmatlala is testifying following an earlier request to postpone the proceedings. And Israel's military officials have notified the family of Diror Or that his body has been returned from Gaza after forensic experts completed identification efforts. His body was brought back to Israel by a Palestinian militant group last night. Channel Africa News, I'm Onelin Sinzi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective. Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
It's a very good afternoon from the Sports Desk. I am Musibu Dimakura with the latest sports news. At the Sawa, so South Africa handed India their heaviest defeat by runs to complete a compelling 2-0 series sweep in Guwahati on Wednesday. That's, of course, earlier on this morning. The Proteas won by 408 runs in the second test to claim just their second series win in India and their first since 2000 under Hansi Cronje. The defeat surpasses India's previous heaviest loss, which was by 342 runs against Australia in Nagpur back in 2004. It is India's second home series defeat in 2 years after a 3-0 loss to New Zealand just last year. Now, prior to that, they had not lost a test series on home soil in 12 years. The win means South Africa, who became world test champions with a victory over Australia at Lord's in June of this year, have won 11 of the 12 test matches under the captaincy of Themba Bavuma. They also won the 2 test series opener in Kolkata by about 30 runs, and the second test win sees the Proteas consolidate second place in the current edition of the World Test Championship, while India sit in 5th position. On to football news now. Helman Mkhalele, the assistant coach of South Africa's main senior football team, says enrolling for the CAF A license course in Lesotho this month was non-negotiable. He has faced a growing scrutiny over his lack of formal qualifications for a coach at his level, and criticism that has even come from the head coach Hugo Bruce. Speaking in Maseru ahead of the workshop, Mkhalele stressed the importance of upskilling himself and also ensuring he meets the required standards before next month's Africa Cup of Nations tournament in Morocco.
I would like to first thank LIFA, the Lesotho Football Association, for creating an opportunity for me to be part of the student, because it's not an easy thing especially for a foreign coach to come and be provided with an opportunity to gain knowledge. Because as I'm here as a coach, it is important that number one, you have the necessary skills and knowledge on how to develop players.
Now, Mkelele also insists the paperwork is secondary and what truly matters is improving his understanding of the game.
For me, as a coach, I've also been working at a national team at a senior level. So it is important that I have the right qualification. So I am here to get the qualification, of which is not the main objective. The main objective is to acquire knowledge and skill that I can apply in developing football.
On to this now, South African-based striker Loseka Rashikudu has earned his first senior call-up as Botswana named the preliminary squad for next month's Africa Cup of Nations tournament in Morocco. The Zebras announced a 36-man list earlier this week, which was also made to be trimmed to 23 by the 11th of December. That's the deadline as to when national teams can now name their final 23-man squad. The player, a teenage forward, helped Ubuntu Stars to success in the Bayhal tournament earlier on this year and also has represented Botswana at the junior level. Coach Morena Ramarabori has also included 4 players based in North Africa. Among them is Dumisang Orabonye of Wydad Casablanca, as well as Kabelo Senyakeng of Maghreb Fez. The squad also features former Kaizer Chiefs defender, that is Tationa Ditokwe, now with Al Ittihad in Libya, as well as veteran goalkeeper Kabelo Dambe, currently with Township Brawlers in Gaborone. And finally, Cristiano Ronaldo will be able to play for Portugal in their opening game at next year's World Cup finals despite his red card against the Republic of Ireland. He's 40 years of age, by the way, and he was sent off for an elbow to Dara O'Shea back during Portugal's 2-0 qualifying defeat earlier on this month. Now, violent conduct normally carries a 3-match ban, but Ronaldo has had the second and third matches suspended for a year. Now, BBC Sport understands that the fact that this is his first red card in 226 international appearances was taken into account. Ronaldo set out the match against Armenia on the 16th of November, so he will not miss any games in the USA when that World Cup gets underway in June and July of next year. Well, for any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Give us a call as well on +27 11714 4459. I'm back with more sports news in the next hour. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Mosibu D. Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Parlez-vous couramment le français? Êtes-vous passionné par la radio? Et êtes-vous qualifié pour travailler en Afrique du Sud? Envoyez-nous votre CV et votre 3 minutes démo en MP3 à @channelafrica.co.za pour avoir une chance de rejoindre la famille Channel Africa. Si vous n'avez pas de réponse après 14 jours, cela signifie que vous n'avez pas été retenu. Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
We are on Open Views Audio Bouquet. Channel 628. Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Good afternoon. And our top business story this hour, Burkina Faso is hosting an international conference on women in business. Delegates from different parts of the African continent and the diaspora have converged on the capital city, Ouagadougou, to discuss women's roles in business and industrialization. Sophie Mukwena reports.
Burkina Faso, the land of the brave, the country is still recovering from the political upheaval of 2022 that led to the military coup. The military leader, Captain Ibrahim Traore, is trying to rebuild the economy, and the Women Conference is part of the campaign to attract investors.
State-owned Uganda National Oil Company has identified 9 potential wells in the Kasuruban block with significant new crude oil deposits. The find potentially increases crude resources in Uganda's Albertine Rift Basin, where France's Total Energies, China's CNOOC, and UNOC already operate 2 development fields that are expected to start commercial production in the second half of next year. UNOC acquired the 1,285 square kilometers Kasuruban exploration block in 2023 after signing a production sharing agreement with the government. President of the South African Local Government Association, Bheki Stofile, says the 2025 National Members Assembly will focus on economic growth and how best municipalities can be equipped with financial resources to improve service delivery. Stofile was speaking in Durban during the first day of the 2-day conference, which brings together leaders from all 257 municipalities in the country. The assembly is aimed at shaping policies, strategies and innovation for good governance and quality service delivery throughout all spheres of local government. Stofile elaborates.
Service delivery and the economy are twin brothers, and you won't have financial resources to render service if the economy is not growing. And that is why, therefore, it becomes critically important with that, and that is why we are going to focus into that conversation today.
Some marketing experts say empowering consumers is critical in tackling cybercrime. This as South Africans stress over the advertised upcoming Black Friday bargains. Some studies show that last year alone, online purchases surged by 37%, placing intense pressure on the country's payment infrastructure. One of the experts, Shaylin Padeachi.
South Africa actually has a very robust and advanced payments ecosystem. So if you look at digital transactions, they've been growing so aggressively year on year because of the payment infrastructure and the inherent trust that ultimately results in for the consumer.
A general strike in Belgium is expected to cause widespread disruptions today. Some flights and train services have already been cancelled. More workers are expected to walk out on the 3rd day of industrial action that has affected schools, hospitals and public services. The BBC's Nick Beek reports.
Unions have condemned planned changes to VAT, unemployment benefits and pensions, but ministers say the proposals are the only way to fix the nation's finances. Belgium has the 4th highest level of debt in relation to the size of the economy in the EU, behind only Greece, Italy and France. Following months of intense debate, the 5-party nationalist-led Belgian coalition government has just agreed on a national budget, but the breakthrough proved too late to avert all the planned industrial action.
And our time for our first look at the indicators this afternoon. $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,453 naira this afternoon. In Botswana, it's 13.31. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 76, and in Zambia, it's 22 kwacha 89. The BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 real 38. Russia, 78 rubles 72. In India, it's 89 rupees 15. China 719, and South Africa $1 is trading at 17 rand 24 cents this afternoon. $1 is trading at 76 pence to the British pound and 86 to the euro. Looking at commodities, gold is trading at $4,164 per ounce, platinum at $1,567 per ounce, while Brent crude oil is at $62.26 a barrel. And that's the news. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Bontle Hetbush.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update. Only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Well, thank you to Buntle Headbush with our business news. It is 12:44 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. A South African woman-led organization has launched the Remember Her campaign to honor women and children who lost their lives through gender-based violence. This is part of the global 16 days of activism against gender-based violence and femicide. Tina Tayat, a co-founder of 1000 Women Trust, says their message to the families left behind is, you are not alone. Your pain is shared. Your daughter's name will live on. Our Tina now joins us on the line to speak to us about this campaign. Tina, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Now, tell us more about this campaign.
Well, 3 years ago, we started with empowering communities to have support groups. So that was all part of healing that we are trying to do in the communities. And then this year we decided we have to take it one step further. We have to remember her. We have to say her name. And also, we know that if we start talking about it, then healing starts. So this is all part of our organizations, and there are over 1,000 of them who are all busy with this healing process in South Africa.
And what are you calling on people to do regarding the campaign?
Well, first of all, we ask them to do memory corners where they put the photographs of the woman up and little stories, and then obviously light candles, put ribbons up, the usual ways that people do memorials, and so that we talk about the people and talk about the women and children. And then in public spaces, we are doing white ribbons in the trees, and we are putting benches up with names, and even in the post office, we are putting up the photo of the person who died. We're putting up a little story and a poster so that everybody who needs support knows who to contact.
How important are such campaigns during the 16 days of activism, but also around the year?
Yes, very important. I mean, South Africa at this moment, it's crucial because we've just had the Purple campaign, and now we must unite, we must work together, and we must push further so that we can keep on going for the rest of the year. It's also important because our government has declared it as a disaster, gender-based violence as a disaster. We have to follow the systems, and we have to make sure that there are implementation by all the service providers.
And what are you finding, Tina, with your interactions you mentioned that there are over 1,000 organizations that are affiliated to you and are also doing this, running this campaign, working together as a collective. What are you finding? What stories are coming out? And just, healing is very important. What are you finding with regards to people and their healing processes?
A lot of them, I've even had parents the last 2 days who've contacted us and who explained to us how important this is to them and how they feel that this is something that they should support and should do. So we know that that is coming through. But even the worst part is that we still have stories where, for example, a young woman was killed by a boyfriend and still the case has not been solved. It's still pending. It's 2 years later. So we also collect those kind of incidents so that we can actually tackle the various departments and see how we can help and get sorted and closure for the parents. So it works double ways. And obviously a lot of them are having lots of emotions. So we've got a whole group of counselors that free of charge are providing counseling to whoever needs it. And at the same stage, other organizations who hasn't got support groups are contacting us. We got 31 new ones just yesterday of organizations who now want to start the support groups in the communities. So it's very valuable to us.
And Tina, you're calling on this campaign to be an all year round campaign. And, with everything that you've just told us in terms of the positives that have come out from this, what are you hoping will then happen going forward, especially now with GBV and femicide being, basically the president saying it is a disaster, a crisis in the country, and what will follow is going to be very key.
Yes, we are also providing a lot of training, and we've trained 20,000 women in the last 2 years who are providing the support to communities, even if they don't have a support group that meets regular. They are able to help. But what I really, really would like to collect is all the cases that is not being attended, that has not got the attention from the service providers, where the police, the clinic, the court hasn't followed up, because then we collectively can do something about that.
Yeah.
And that's what I really want. So we're launching a chatbot where people can report the incident, and we can see what's the best way to follow up.
Tina, thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update. We'll leave it there for today.
Thank you for having me.
That was Tina Tiat, a co-founder of 1000 Women Trust, joining us on the line. And it is that time of the day where we say a happy Wednesday, happy hump day to Lulu Gaboo of the Upside team. How are you today?
Fantastic, Lulu. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
So this afternoon on the Upside, we are going to be graced by a chef, self-taught home cook, who's going to be joining us in studio. She's all the way from Kuruman.
Oh.
And I hope she's bringing some delicacies
goodies,
and
right?
goodies, because you're not allowed to be a chef and come to our show and not have food. That's just illegal, isn't it? But we'll be getting into conversation with her as she joins us this afternoon. Desiree Lingwati, founder of Desi's Cuisine and Catering. And then later on, I think I did ask you if you're a race fan. Are you a car racing fan, Lulu? Not so much?
Wishy-washy.
Wishy-washy.
Yeah.
All right. We'll be talking about the Summer Festival of Racing that's happening in Cape Town. It will be starting now in November, running all the way to February next year. And we're going to be finding out what the excitement is all about, what people can expect, and how it's going to be blending in culture, racing, and all the amazing things that motorsport fans will enjoy. That's all coming up on the Upside. And as always, what caught your eye? We've got Vento Clock, and I'll be joined by the lovely Ntsako Mhlanga.
All right. So that's all coming up at the top of the hour on the Upside with Tebogo Lekuleni and Matseko Musito. And as we continue, a lot coming up in terms of all the stories that we've covered, and we want you to continue with us on all our social media platforms, on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, and Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 at 406 9126. Hashtag Africa Updates, and let us know which country you're in. And if you have any stories that you'd like us to highlight or to focus on, send us an email. It is newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or give us a call on +2711 714 4459.
Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update. Only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa. The African perspective.
It is 12:53 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. A global vaccine alliance, Gavi, together with UNICEF, has secured a significant price reduction for the new R21 malaria vaccine, and a move expected to expand access for millions of children across low-income countries. The cost of each dose will drop by 25%, from roughly $4 to close to $3 within the next year. UNICEF, which procures the vaccines using Gavi's funding, says the agreement comes at a crucial time as donor support tightens, but the need to protect vulnerable children remains urgent. On Channel Africa's Lebogang Mabange spoke to Andrew Jones, UNICEF Deputy Director for Immunization Supplies.
Well, first of all, I want to say how important malaria is across Africa in particular, right? There's
hundreds of thousands of children that die every year. And so this is a crucial tool against in the fight against malaria. I think the price reduction makes it a little more affordable, right? In the time we're in right now, where we're seeing aid constraints and countries under financial hardship, that makes it easier. And it makes it a little bit easier to get more vaccine to more children. The price reduction deal is going to significantly contribute to protecting the program overall, which will maintain access to malaria vaccine for countries. And what's important is countries can access the vaccine at a lower price before, actually historically low price, regardless of what specific co-funding arrangement they have, because this vaccine is provided through the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization, Gavi, and as part of that, donors pay a portion and countries pay a portion. And so the fact that the vaccine becomes more affordable means that it's easier for countries to introduce it.
So how will the projected $90 million in savings now be used to expand access and reach more children, especially in high-burden countries?
Well, ultimately, it's going to be up to countries to make that decision, right? So countries are the one who are going to apply for support for the malaria vaccine. And in the way arrangements work now, countries will be given a budget for vaccines, and they'll have to make a decision on prioritizing across a whole host of infectious diseases in their country. But there's no doubt that having these additional funds is going to mean more money for other malaria interventions. It's going to mean more money for other vaccines. And right now, we need all the money we can get. So this is a crucial piece. I mean, it's worth saying at the price we're reduced to, $90 million is about 30 million additional doses of malaria vaccine, right? Which in itself is enough for the full vaccination of nearly 7 million children against malaria on a 4-dose schedule. So this is a significant step forward.
So how confident are you that this price drop will help maintain or maybe accelerate progress towards the malaria elimination goals despite financial constraints?
Well, something UNICEF has been doing is buying vaccines for the world's poorest children for decades now. And we're very proud of the role we're able to play of bringing private sector to the table and recognizing that we find this sort of solution space between manufacturers and their desire to have a sustainable business and be able to deliver vaccines, and then our desire as a development agency on behalf of the poorest countries in the world to get vaccines to children who need them most. So I think what's really important now is in an era where financial donors, financial support from donors is going down or certainly being reduced, the work we're doing is becoming even more crucial. I mean, we've always fought to find a way to make vaccines as affordable as possible, and now we're redoubling our effort to make sure this is true, not just for malaria vaccine, but for all the other vaccines that are essential in children's life, whether it's against diarrhea, pneumonia, and a host of other diseases.
What additional partnerships are being explored to ensure long-term affordability and also supply of malaria vaccines worldwide?
Well, I think this is a big step, as I mentioned, for malaria vaccines. And let's not forget, right, this is one of the tools for malaria. There's other things that can fight against malaria, whether it's bed nets, insecticide-treated bed nets, indoor spraying in some cases, and then, of course, there's treatment as well. So certainly there is a need to look across the set of strategies that go beyond vaccines. And that's certainly something UNICEF is doing. We're keen to see whether we can use, in addition to sort of donors supporting us, as well as innovative financial tools and other instruments to help reduce price and find malaria vaccines and other interventions more affordable. But it's not limited, as I mentioned just before, it's not limited to malaria, right? We're keen to see across the host of health interventions that UNICEF does, see how we can make things more sustainable and affordable for the world's poorest countries.
And that report by Lebogang Mabange. Oh, it is that time of the day where we wrap up. Continue with us on all our social media platforms and let us know what your thoughts are on DSTV's audio bouquet channel 802, OpenView channel 628, and on www.channelafrica.co.za with today's question on hashtag Africa Updates. Ask a South African woman-led organization having launched the Remember Her campaign to honor women and children who lost their lives through gender-based violence as part of the global 16 days of activism against gender-based violence and femicide. Our question to you today is, is, what are you doing to raise awareness for gender-based violence and femicide? Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 at 406 9126. Hashtag Africa Update Us. And we will do this again tomorrow on Thursday. Be safe. Bye-bye.
Celebrate generosity. Celebrate you. Channel Africa. Life with gratitude. Visit our new website or download